The death-fearing king of gods. A lesson on the root of Samsara. Hi everyone, welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are going to talk about a truly spectacular story. It comes from a fascinating and profoundly deep classical text. Before we begin, I want you to imagine something. What if the king of gods himself, the supreme ruler of the heavens, holding absolute, unparalleled power, suddenly discovered that he was about to die? What would that look like? This isn't just an ancient mythological tale. It is actually a deeply profound psychological and philosophical crisis. Are you ready to explore it with me? Let's jump right in. The grand cosmic collapse. Let's get straight to the point. What happens when a celestial being, who always assumed he was immortal, suddenly realizes he only has a few days left to live? You know how we usually think of gods, right? They dwell high above, untouched by death. But in this grand cosmic worldview, even gods must confront the terror of mortality. Imagine the sheer despair of falling from the absolute pinnacle of existence straight into the abyss. The panic of realizing that everything you own is about to vanish is exactly the same as what we humans experience when we hit rock bottom. The protagonist of our story is Shakra Indra, the supreme ruler of the Triashrimsha heaven, the heaven of the 33. For eons, he enjoyed a level of cosmic luxury that we mortals cannot even fathom, a life of endless, uninterrupted pleasure. But the laws of the universe are perfectly fair. Anything gained through accumulated karmic merit fuel is ultimately temporary. Karmic merit is just like a bank account. No matter how much you have, it will eventually run out if you keep spending it without making deposits. Just as he had grown accustomed to this eternal life of luxury, taking it all for granted, a terrifying reality caught him completely off guard. He began to experience a brutal, agonizing phenomenon known in Buddhism as the 5 signs of decay of a celestial being, Tianren Wuxuai. This isn't like the ordinary aging, illness, and death we see in the human realm. Imagine everything you take pride in collapsing in an instant. The divine, eternal radiance surrounding his body suddenly vanished. The evergreen flower garland on his head began to wither and emit a foul odor. His magnificent, celestial robe mysteriously became soiled. His flawless divine body, which had never perspired, started to sweat and accumulate dirt. Most terrifying of all, his divine eyes, which had never needed to blink, began to blink uncontrollably. Every single one of these signs was screaming at him, your time is up. The irony of seeking hope. Terrified that he would fall into the painful lower realms after death, Shakra completely panicked. Desperate to survive, the mighty king of the heavens descended to the human realm. He actually knelt at the feet of human ascetics and spiritual practitioners, begging them for protection. But the irony was exquisite. When these human practitioners realized, well, the actual king of gods is kneeling right in front of us, they became ecstatic and said, "Oh my goodness, this is so rare. We should be taking refuge in you instead." It was a perfect example of the blind leading the blind, a completely absurd, misplaced expectation. Obviously, this approach did absolutely nothing to solve his existential crisis. Deeply disappointed, Shakra finally understood that these human practitioners had not mastered the true path to liberation. Wasting no more time, he decided to return to the heavens. He realized his only hope now was to wait for the ultimate teacher, the Buddha, Shakyamuni, who was about to achieve enlightenment in the human realm. However, you have to remember that a single day in heaven is equal to hundreds of years on earth. Therefore, the remaining few days of his lifespan felt like an excruciating countdown. He had to hold on for dear life, waiting for the exact moment the Buddha achieved enlightenment in the human world. That anxiety of counting down to death while clinging to a sliver of hope is something an ordinary person could never endure. Finally, the conditions ripened. Shakra, along with his retinue of Baling, Ling celestial sons, rushed down to find the Buddha. At the time, the Buddha was in a small mountain cave, practicing deep meditation. Then something miraculous happened. The cave, which was originally so small it could barely fit a single person, miraculously expanded under the Buddha's blessing. It effortlessly accommodated all Baling, Ling plus celestial beings without feeling crowded at all. To avoid startling the Buddha during his deep meditation, they approached with immense wisdom and elegance. Again, Harvard pulled out a stunning sapphire lute and played an incredibly beautiful melody in praise of the Buddha. Amidst this exquisite music, the Buddha peacefully emerged from his meditation. Shakra immediately seized this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He earnestly asked the Buddha, what is the root cause that keeps sentient beings trapped in this endless cycle of samsara, unable to escape? Faced with this monumental question, the Buddha delivered a razor-sharp, incredibly precise diagnosis. The Buddha stated, the root of all the suffering does not lie anywhere external, it resides entirely within our own minds, specifically in jealousy and miserliness. To truly understand the weight of the Buddha's words, let us redefine what samsara actually is. It isn't just a literal cycle of life and death. It is a suffocating, painful loop. The system traps all living beings inside it. Whether you are an ordinary human, a fierce asura, or a high and mighty celestial deity like Shakra, everyone is trapped in the same house. Driven by our own ignorance and impulses, we build this endless loop and continuously struggle and suffer within it. As long as the root cause remains, absolutely no one is exempt. However, the Buddha did not just stop at abstract theories. He meticulously broke down the true nature of jealousy and miserliness. Think about it: when we cannot bear to see others succeed, or when we desperately cling to our wealth, knowledge, or even emotions, refusing to share them, doesn't that create a tight, anxious, and deeply uncomfortable feeling in our hearts? The Buddha explained it perfectly. It is precisely these seemingly minor impulses of jealousy and the stubborn refusal to share that turn into invisible chains. They lock us securely into the painful cycle of samsara. The more you fear losing what you have, the tighter the chains bind you until you can barely breathe. Instant rebirth and the law of karma. Upon hearing this incredible teaching, it was as if Shakra's spiritual blocks were instantly cleared. He immediately let go of all his doubts, and his fear of death vanished completely. Right then and there, he made a grand vow for the future to the Buddha. Recognizing his realization, the Buddha granted him a massive blessing. Shakra attained the stage of Sotapanna stream enter. What does this mean? It means he officially took his first definitive step toward full enlightenment. He received a cosmic guarantee that he would never again fall into the three lower realms of suffering. But what happened next completely defied everyone's imagination. At the exact moment Shakra and his Bashi, Ling followers attained the pure eye of Dharma, their decaying, dying bodies vanished in a split second. In the very next second, they were instantly reborn right there on the spot in their purest, most radiant celestial forms. This seamless transition happened so incredibly fast that even they were stunned. They looked at each other in disbelief, asking, wait a minute, did we just die and come back to life? They couldn't even tell if they had actually died. It was absolutely mind-blowing. You might wonder, how could such an amazing miracle happen so effortlessly? The Buddha explained that this was absolutely not a stroke of random luck. It was a flawless demonstration of the law of karma. We have to trace the timeline back to the incredibly distant past. During the era of Kwakachan the Buddha, back then Shakra was merely a human king. To make offerings to the Buddha, he poured immense effort into building Wubai Dharma halls and magnificent stupas, accumulating an unfathomable amount of karmic merit. He also made a profound vow to bring joy to the Buddha lifetime after lifetime. It was precisely because he planted that pure, virtuous seed in the ancient past that across countless spans of time and space it finally bore fruit at this critical moment of life and death, culminating in his instantaneous rebirth and spiritual awakening. Reflection for the modern world. So, we've reached the end of the story. What does this ancient text actually mean for us modern folks today? Let us look at how contemporary Dharma masters interpret it. There is a core, heart-piercing conclusion that we must all remember. Even if you climb to the very pinnacle of worldly success, achieve the status of a god, and possess wealth you could never spend in a lifetime, as long as you are still operating within the mechanism of samsara, you are still helpless against the fear of loss and death. Those seemingly powerful external conditions are incredibly fragile in the face of impermanence. This reminder from modern masters carries a powerful punch. It tells us that if we blindly chase external pleasures, it will ultimately lead to suffering. More importantly, those unmonitored impulses in our daily lives, yes, the jealousy and miserliness we just talked about, silently create negative karma in the blink of an eye. Most of the time, We are digging our own grave without even realizing it. Therefore, we must learn to constantly observe ourselves, rein in the delusions of our minds, and place our life purpose on the pursuit of true liberation and wisdom. Through today's deep dive, by looking at the existential crisis of a heavenly king, we have glimpsed the deepest inner workings of our own minds. Before we wrap up today, I want you to quiet your mind and ask yourself, how much of the anxiety, pressure, and pain you face every day actually stems from your fear of losing things? Are you ready to overcome the jealousy and miserliness in your heart and reclaim your true freedom? That's all for today's explanation. Take your time to really reflect on this question.